Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
I am ready for the event.
Houston ACR, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Houston ACR. How do you copy?
I have you loud and clear.
Great. Please stand by for opening remarks.
Hi, my name is Matthew. I go to St. Thomas More, and my question. Hi, my name is Matthew.
Hello, Anne. This is Karen Hudson with Mobius Discovery Center in your hometown of Spokane, Washington. We are beyond excited to be connecting with you all the way up on the International Space Station. We're here this morning at your high school Gonzaga Prep and joined by a mix of elementary, middle, and high school students from throughout the area. You are an inspiration to our community and have shown us that hard work and following your dreams can lead us anywhere, including space. Let's start our conversation. Our first question is,
Hi, my name is Matthew. I go to St. Thomas More, and my question for you is, what is your favorite experiment that you have done in space?
Well, Matthew, we do so many experiments up here in space. So first of all, I just want to say hello to everybody that is currently sitting in the Gonzaga Prep Gymnasium, a gymnasium that I've spent a lot of time in, playing a lot of sports, going to a lot of rallies, and going to a lot of assemblies like the one that you're at. So it's great to be visiting Spokane today. We do so many experiments up here on Space Station. This incredible laboratory is about the size of a football field, and we have hundreds of experiments going on any one day. So picking one is tough. But I want to tell you about one that's pretty cool that we've done recently. As you know, in order to go into deep space and do longer duration missions, we need to figure out how to provide the best food for astronauts. And one of those is by growing plants. So a lot of you remember from your science classes that plants grow based on a process called photosynthesis, where they convert light energy into chemical energy, and they use carbon dioxide and produce oxygen in the process. Well, we recently did an experiment up here to see if we could feed plants with something else that they didn't actually have to go through the photosynthesis process, so that maybe we could have like an artificial fertilizer to grow better plants, and then we don't have to provide artificial sunlight. So we'll see how it turns out.
Hi, my name is Ellis, and I go to Ruben Trejo Dual Language Academy. My question for you is, do you have Wi-Fi? Can you be on the internet and watch videos or see websites?
That's a fun question because we do live and work here. And so in order to both live and work, we actually do have internet and we have Wi-Fi. In fact, I think we have about 9 Wi-Fi networks here on station. So the tricky part is not all being on the same Wi-Fi network at the same time. But it's not just for fun. You know, we can look at the internet on our personal time, but really what a lot of that is for is to pass all the data down to the ground. So of all those science experiments, imagine if we had to call ground and tell them what was happening on all of those hundreds. That doesn't really happen. So if you look at all the wall and the ceiling and the floor that's around me, those are experiments that are going on right now, and they are sending data over Wi-Fi and down to the ground.
My name is Chloe and I am from Shadle Park High School. My question is, what is something that you learned being on Crew 10 that you wish you knew during your first mission?
Yeah, I have thought a lot about your question because every mission is different, and every mission you have the opportunity to learn new things. I think what I realize more now than I did in the first mission was how much I'm going to remember the people that I work with and the people I got to do this amazing mission with. And so I'm able to savor the moment a little bit better with my current crew. The other thing that I realize is that that's due in large part with my comfort level with doing this type of mission. This mission has been very comfortable for me. I haven't been nervous about performance or doing something for the first time. I want you guys all to think about maybe like a club that you joined for the first time, or a new youth group that you went to, or a sport that you tried out for, and how nervous that kind of makes you when you've never done it before. Well, here's a little secret. That never really goes away, even as an adult. Let's say you go to flight school, or you go off to college, or you become an astronaut and you go to space for the first time. There's still that part of you that's really nervous to do something that you've never done before. So I was fortunate on my second time that I didn't have as much of those nerves, because once you get out of your comfort zone and you do those things, you start to gain confidence in yourself, which is why for all of you sitting there and listening today, I want you to try something that scares you a little bit, because your dreams aren't going to come to your comfort zone. You've got to expand your comfort zone in order to get to your dreams. The magic doesn't happen inside your comfort zone. You got to scare yourself a little. And to me, that's a really good sign that you're pushing yourself beyond your boundaries, and that's how you achieve amazing things.
Hi, my name is Emery, and I go to Assumption Parish Catholic School, and my question is, what has been the highlight of your career?
I think a highlight is always going to be a spacewalk. And I'll tell you why, is because when I was your age, sitting in that exact gymnasium that you are right now, I had dreams of going to space, but I didn't really know how to get there. And whenever I pictured being in space, I always pictured a spacewalk, and I always wondered what that was going to be like. And for me, the magic never goes away thinking about the fact that these hands, these same hands that just like you play at Riverfront Park and played softball at Franklin Park, all the places that you've been and my hands have been, one day it then put on a spacewalk glove like this one, and I picked up a tool like this one, and I went outside of the space station, and I got to physically fix something or upgrade something on this incredible space station in low Earth orbit. And I got to work out in the vacuum of space, a place that is on the edge of what humans are capable of surviving. I got to rely on technology that was developed and iterated over many years. I got to work with a team of hundreds of people on the ground that were to keep me safe. And that to me was the pinnacle of my career, because it's everything that I worked for. It's everything that I pictured that I didn't know if it was going to come true. And when I was out there, I got to be so proud of the young Anne from Spokane that never gave up.
My name is Merrick, and I go to Liberty Lake Elementary. My question is, what was it like the first time you launched into space? Do you get to look out the window as you fly?
I did get to look out the window on my first time to space. And you know, I didn't get to look out the window very much on my second time. So my first flight to space, I launched on a Russian Soyuz spacecraft, and I was sitting in the far right seat, and just over my right shoulder was a window. And you know, when you're going through all the motion of launch, it can be really overwhelming. And I remember maybe about 20 minutes after we got to orbit, and I looked out the window, and it was almost all pure darkness, pure black. I couldn't see anything. And then I saw what looked like a small blue flame. And in my mind, I thought, at first my brain said that's a flame, and then I thought, no, that's outside in the vacuum of space. That can't be a flame. And then I watched it kind of grow, and what I realized I was watching was my first sunrise. And that blue flame was actually just the sun rising over the curvature of the Earth. And I absolutely could not believe it. I was physically not on the planet anymore, and not only that, but I was looking back at a sunrise for the first time. It was really incredible. It's a moment I'll never forget. On my second flight, I was the commander. I was up at the controls with me, and my pilot were up at the controls, so we were really focused on the flying, so we didn't really get a chance to look out the window and see that same type of view. So I really cherished that moment from my first flight.
Hi, my name is Eric. I am from All Saints Catholic School, and I would like to know, what was the most challenging part of your training?
You know, I think that the most challenging part of training is actually how different every day is, and having to kind of put it all together. So, you know, oftentimes we pick something that we're really good at, and that's what we want to do a lot of, right? But being an astronaut requires a lot of different skills. Everything from physical grit, you know, being in a spacesuit and training underwater is really physically and mentally challenging. And then the next morning you may get up and you're going to a Russian lesson or having a test and, you know, learning foreign languages. And then maybe the next day you're learning how to draw your own blood and do human research on yourself. And then you're standing up and you're talking to a group of people like you. And if you just think about the skills that each one of those things requires, it requires you to adapt over time, but it also requires you to adapt a lot during one single day. You may have to be really good at something at 9 o'clock in the morning and then completely shift what skills you're using at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And so that ability to adapt and change and kind of get used to that was a real challenge, but you do get used to it over time.
Hi, my name's Evie. I go to Westview Elementary School, and I have a question. What is something from your weekly routine on Earth that you miss in space?
Well, Evie, I'll tell you one kind of fun thing and then one kind of household chore thing. So routine that I miss in space is actually just going outside. I really enjoy being outside in the sunshine, whether I'm going on a run or if I'm sitting outside with friends and enjoying dinner. But getting to be outside and like feeling the breeze or feeling rain when it's coming down or feeling different temperatures, I really miss being able to go outside. Something that I miss that's a little harder to do up here in space than on Earth, and I don't really love folding clothes on Earth, but I will tell you it is so much easier folding clothes on Earth than it is in space. Up here in space, we just kind of grab a shirt and there's no good way to fold it in half, so it becomes really time-consuming and a little frustrating.
Hi, my name is Rachel and I go to Gonzaga Prep. My question is, what are you most excited for in the future of space exploration?
Yeah, Rachel, I love that question because I can't even predict what the future of space exploration is. The rate at which the space exploration is changing is something like I've never seen in my life before. When you think about it, it was just over 100 years that human beings first took to flight, like the first airplanes. You know, that wasn't that long ago, 110, 120 years ago. And then only 50 years after that was the first time we sent astronauts to space. Now, I want you to raise your hand. Raise your hand if you are under 25 years old. Okay, I bet there's almost everybody except the teachers there, and even some teachers are raising their hand. If you are under 25 years old, you have never been alive when there hasn't been astronauts living and working in space full time. You guys are the first generation that can ever say that. And in the future, what I'm really excited about is access to space. Okay, in the past, it's just been government astronauts, it's been NASA vehicles, and some foreign nations also have space vehicles. But now, commercial companies are building space vehicles, and not just to come to work, but just to visit space. You know, Blue Origin is just on the other side of the mountains from you guys in Seattle. You know, they're doing shorter trips to give people a short experience to space. There are multiple companies that are working on different types of space exploration, and I think so many more people are going to have access to it, and that's what's really exciting to me.
Hi, my name is Jack. I go to Ruben Trejo Dual Language Academy, and my question is, what is the air pressure on the space station? Where does the air come from? And what would you do if there were a pressure problem?
Yeah. So up on space station, you know, our bodies, we're still human beings, right? So my body requires the same thing as all of your bodies when it comes to pressure, the mixture in the air that I'm breathing, when it comes to eating. And so we've replicated that up here on Earth. So actually inside of the space station, the pressure is just like where you're sitting in the gymnasium. Now, that said, we have very thin walls that are all around us, between us and space, that are maintaining that pressure. And on the outside, the pressure, as you know, is zero. It's in the vacuum, and we can't survive out there. So something that we train often is, what happens if we have a leak in the space station? How do we react? And so we have a whole set of emergency procedures that have been very well thought out, and we have all been trained on in case that happened. It's called a rapid depressurization. We would get an alarm, and then we'd react to it depending on how quick that leak is. Ideally, we'd be able to find the leak and patch it, but in the course of a rapid depressurization, our entire crew could be in our vehicles that we flew up in and be ready to close a hatch and be ready to go in order to save ourselves. Now, the air comes in up here in a few different ways. We have tanks that can launch things like oxygen and nitrogen, and we use those to help replenish the air. We also have multiple systems, one that my crewmate is working on right now, that do things like scrub carbon dioxide or produce oxygen to put in the air. And when you look at a team of mission control working on the ground, there are people there right this minute who are actually listening to me talk right now, who are making sure that the mix of air that I am breathing is perfect for my body. And those people are very vigilant. They're there 24 hours a day to make sure everything stays mixed correctly.
Hi, my name is Maddie. I go to Logan Elementary, and my question is, what do you eat in space?
Maddie, this is one of my favorite topics because then I get to eat snacks. So it's really expensive to launch things to the space station, right? And so we want to make things as light as possible. So one of the things that we eat are what we call dehydrated food. And they come in these little white packets which protect it from radiation. I didn't even see what I grabbed. I grabbed scrambled eggs. So we open these up, and these are dried, and they are in a little plastic container. And this is really light. I can even tell, I mean, it's weightless for me, but there's no moisture in it like normal eggs. So what we do is we use this top straw area and we add water into the eggs to rehydrate it. So that's one thing that we eat. We can also launch food that is all we have to do is heat it up. So right here, that's chicken fajitas. And with my chicken fajitas, I have tortillas, and these are tortillas just like the ground. Now think to yourself, like, why wouldn't we want to have bread up here? Well, it's because when I open a loaf of bread up here, the crumbs would kind of go everywhere, right? And so these tortillas are just like the tortillas that you get at the store. And so maybe tonight I'll heat up these chicken fajitas and put it on a tortilla. And finally, it's really important that we drink a lot in space. You don't want to get dehydrated. It's not good for your system. And so we have these drink packets. And the fun thing is, if you look at the straw on top, there's a clip halfway through the straw. Because if I unclip this, all of the liquid would actually come out of the bag. So the proper way to drink is to put it in your mouth, unclip it, take a drink, and then you got to clip it closed, and then you can take it off your mouth. So I'll show you how that goes.
Hi, my name is Sadie. I go to Logan Elementary School, and my question is, if you weren't an astronaut, what job would you have?
Well, before I was an astronaut, I was a couple things. One was an engineer, one was a pilot, and one was an Army officer. And I was really fortunate to do all those three things in the Army. And if I wasn't here, I would still be doing that in the Army. I really enjoyed serving my country in the military. I went to West Point right after I graduated from prep, and I would still love to be doing it this day. Sometimes I miss flying helicopters. But as a fun fact, I might get to fly helicopters again because we're actually using helicopters to train astronauts how to land on the moon.
My name is Nolan, and I go to Skyline Elementary School. My question is, what do you do to pass the time? Do you play any games?
I tell you what, when you are living in microgravity, I hope that you have a playful spirit and you like to play games, because when we have no gravity, we can get really creative with our games. One of the games we play is an air hockey game. We grab a ping pong ball and we put it in between us, we put our hands behind our back, and we try to blow the ping pong ball past the other person across from you. It sounds really simple, but it's one of our favorite games. We also can watch movies together. Sometimes we tell riddles, things that don't require a lot of equipment. So we do have a pretty playful spirit up here, because at the end of the day, we're living out our dreams here in microgravity, and we're having a lot of fun doing it.
Hi, Anne. This is Chloe Bockley, and on behalf of all the students here in Spokane, we'd like to say a huge thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. Thank you as well for being such an inspiration for me and other Spokane students wanting to follow in your footsteps. Good luck on your mission, and have a safe trip when you return here to Earth.
Thank you, Chloe, and it is such an honor and a privilege for me to talk to all of you, and I have no doubt that some of you are going to come back to Spokane and you're going to tell the next generation of kids what you went and did. Maybe it's going to be an astronaut also, but maybe it's going to be that little dream that's living inside of your heart. The biggest thing that I can tell you is that you can do anything from Spokane. Okay, I grew up in Spokane and here I am in space. I can't wait to see what you guys do.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we're now resuming operational audio communications.